The Steph that's in Canada asked a question about organizing photos for clients, and I'm so happy, Steph, that you asked this question because I do have an answer about this. She asked if I have ever offered photo organizing or digitizing physical photos into digital photos on the computer, and yes, I have. And specifically, you asked about doing slides. So approximately probably 7 years ago, this was years before I ever started thinking about organizing as a business, my grandfather, who was like 92 at the time, gave me a project or offered me a project. He said, I have boxes and boxes of my 35mm slides that I want to be able to put on the computer and share with other people. And now he was not really a technology kind of user, or he didn't know too much about how all this worked, but he basically said, I'll buy you the scanner, and if you're willing to start putting the slides on the computer, the scanner's all yours, like if you don't mind working on this project. So I got really excited about that because I got a free scanner. And so I started doing doing the 35mm slides, which went in 4 at a time. And this project went on for years because I was going really slowly, just kind of doing it at my own pace. Steph, really interesting because I know you're pregnant right now, but I had a new baby at the time. And so this was something I was just kind of doing in my spare time, and he wasn't paying me. But then after a couple of years, he found more boxes, and he said, hey, will you keep scanning slides? And I was like, oh my gosh, this project will never end. But then he ended up paying me. He kind of said, will you estimate how much time that this will take you? And just kind of multiply that by $20 an hour or whatever, and he ended up paying me $3,000 for the rest of the project. So all said and done, I scanned in 10,000 35mm slides into the computer. So I am very intimately aware of how intensive of a project that is, but also so fulfilling because I actually transcribed all of the little captions that he had, and I got to find, of course it was very special to me because this was my grandfather and my family history, but I was able to learn a lot about his travels. He was a missionary. I saw all kinds of pictures of my dad and his family that I had never seen before, so that was really interesting. And it was very special to him because by the time I got done, I did it kind of part-time for almost 4 years, seriously. But when I got done, he had 10,000 of his photos on his computer that he could share with his family that otherwise would have just been sitting in a box. And that is one of the most just gratifying things about the whole thing is that he thanked me, no kidding, like 100 times. Like, he could not stop saying like what a very special thing that I had done for him. And what he did was he started inserting them on his Facebook timeline. He became a Facebook user in the last few years of his life and was sharing these photos from the past 70 years that he'd been doing his photography. He was sharing them across the world with his friends and with his family, and he would kind of upload a few every day and write his memories about it. I mean, it was the most special thing ever. And I know this is kind of a sidetrack story, but when you asked me if I had ever done that, yes, I have. Now, so my grandfather passed away actually just a year ago, and he still has this epic Facebook timeline. I mean, he was 97 years old, and that was what he was doing as his hobby up until the time that he passed away. So it's really, really cool. He was able to share that, and really, I have personally a passion for turning stuff, the photos themselves are going to disintegrate one day, and so the fact that you can digitize them, organize them, hey Boyd, you can organize them and then be able to share them is it's the most it's such an emotional and special thing that I do feel really passionate about. So Steph, if you want to offer this service as part of you being a professional organizer, I think it's a fantastic thing to do, especially because it's something that you can do from home while you maybe are physically unable to take on other kinds of organizing jobs right now. So how I would do this, when you price it, you probably want to think about, first of all, how quickly that you're able to, well, first of all, are they scanning regular photos or the slides? And because the slides take a little more time than like scanning like 4 photos at a time, do they have like things written on the back that you're also going to be typing up for them and making sure that everything stays together. I mean, I assume that you would. And then organizing, putting them into maybe digital photo albums or folders so that they are able to sort through them themselves later, or maybe they give you some guidance so that you can start organizing some of the pictures that way. Also, another side note, there's so much technology now with applications on the computer that once you have your photos in, for example, on Amazon Prime, which I have all of my personal photos, they have the ability to identify the faces. So you could have your client log in. Once you upload all your photos, the client can log in and start naming people so that you can help them organize photos by person or by event or by year or whatever's going to work best for them. So you have that to consider, kind of how you're going to go about actually helping them do the digital organizing part. So as far as charging for your time on scanning it, I would invest in a really good scanner that's going to go fast, because the process of doing it takes so much time. And then I would price your time. You have to think about this. You're not necessarily competing against photo scanning services, although that is a thing. I mean, you can ship off your boxes of photos and slides to a service that will return the whole thing to you scanned in like 6 weeks. But not everybody is willing to do that, because not everybody just trusts shipping off their box of memories to, I'm not kidding when I say this, I think you ship them to China and they scan them in for you and get it back to you. Like, so how they're competing on the price there is that they're able to do all the work at a lower rate, and they'll say that's like it's only going to cost you 20 cents a slide, whereas if you're doing it yourself, your personal pricing might be more like 50 cents or 75 cents per slide, because it's going to take you that much more time. But I think that your clients are going to trust more because you personally are coming to maybe pick up the photos, and they know you and they know that the photos are going to be safe with you, and then they're not getting shipped overseas and there's not that risk of loss. So don't worry too much about competing against those services, because that's really not going to be your competition for people who really care about having it done locally by someone who's really into it. And I know, Steph, that you have an interest in photography already, so I think that this plays in perfectly to what I think is going to end up being your organizing specialty. You asked about doing photo books, which I have not ever done for a client, but I have done for myself, and I super recommend that. And something that also is really interesting on this topic is that when I'm organizing in people's homes and we kind of make a priority list of how we're going to attack kind of the whole home, and in every single client's house, like what will end up happening is the photos are super, super important to them, but they will save them for last every single time, because it's one of those things that's just, it's important, but it's not urgent. And for example, my grandfather put it off until he was 95, and he ended up saying like, hey, it's the best thing that I've ever done, but he never made the time to do it, and he wouldn't have done it, honestly, if he hadn't had a granddaughter who was just really interested and really wanted to be the family archivist for him. So Steph, I think when you are marketing this and when you're selling this, I think that talking about the emotional payoff of being able to share, and the logistics too, of being able to preserve the photos is going to be a major factor in selling it, and also being able to share it with family that are otherwise never going to see it. I think it's one of those things that you'll be able to work naturally, into your website, into your blog, especially if you kind of blog about the reasons why you particularly are really into this and why you care about this. I just think it can all work really well together with your organizing business. And your rate, I think you're going to have to set that maybe a little, I think, differently than you would for in-home organizing, because you're not, in there kind of doing the really intense physical work. But I'd price it, and I'm not exactly sure what would be normal for your area, but $20, $25 an hour, because you have to think of the business side of what you're doing and the fact that you'll be paying taxes on your business income and that kind of thing. So make it worth it for yourself. So great question. I'm glad you asked that. I could talk about photos for this whole entire session.